Namaste. This is Gratitude is a Winning Attitude, Part 2. The need for Part 2 arose because of somebody's comment that in whatever is said in Part 1, they felt as insufficient. Okay, let me give you a few examples to make my point further clear. The first example I want to take, which is a live situation for me, way back 87, 88, when I was working in Bharat Electronics as a first level executive in admin department, I had the occasion by the direction of my HOD, Mr. V. Krishnamurthy Talitaya, who was General Manager HR those days in Bharat Electronics, to be the coordinator of a high-end training program which was organized for only decision makers from all the 11 units of Bharat Electronics, numbering to about 25, 26. Hope I am clear. It was a 2-day training session for the decision makers in Bharat Electronics, and the speaker was no other than Professor S.K. Chakravarti, head of the Department Humanities, IIM, Calcutta. He is no more, of course. It is a great loss. But however, I was fortunate to be exposed to this experience by God's grace to understand in depth the real show or real meaning of what it means to be expressing one's gratitude to God, and also that of another equally important concept like Nishkama Karma. The episode runs like this. I was coordinating the program. One of my responsibilities was to ensure that I get the check of the speaker at the end of 2-day session to be handed over to him while valediction. I could not succeed because of valid reasons in getting the check on time. When I just pleaded this with my HOD, that is Mr. Talitaya, he appreciated my point of view, but however, he made it very clear to me, I don't know what you are going to do. Come what may, the check has to reach Professor Chakravarti before he departs to Calcutta tomorrow morning by 9. Okay? I could finally succeed in getting the check around 7 p.m. on the very day in my hands. I had a car at my disposal. I virtually reached the hotel where Professor Chakravarti was staying, that is West End, opposite to Racecourse Road in Bangalore, room number 108 to be precise. When I reached there, to my surprise, I saw virtually an embodiment of Buddha sitting outside room number 108. And when I reached him, I knew that he was meditating. It took little time for him to open his eyes and just to nod his head, inquiring as to what I want. I just showed him my cover and said, check. He gave me the instruction to place the check inside the room. When I went inside the room, that is where the real surprise was waiting for me. It was a 2 single beds, very well laid, of course, Western style. But on the second bed, was a idol of Kali Mata. I think it is made up of Panchaloha. And by its look, I could just make out it is not a brand new idol. It was something which was used for years together. It had an antique look. It was placed in the middle of in the center of the cart. Just by the side of that idol was a bunch of keys also placed. It was indeed, I was indeed curious to know what this is all about. I was just 43, 44. I came out, stood again in front of him. He again opened his eyes from the meditative state. And again, with a inquiry, he just looked at me. And I just requested him, hodgepodge. And I told him, sir, want to know that idol, key bunch, etc., etc. He very coolly said, it is my practice since years to hand over the charge of the day's work to Kali Mata before I go to bed. Every day, symbolically, I place a bunch of key on her foot and request her to take charge of both good and bad into her stride. And again, early in the morning, I get up and I take the charge from her, seeking her blessings for the day's success. I was surprised that a man of that stature is practicing that rather than merely preaching that. By the way, the topic that was covered in Bharat Electronics for that high-end managerial staff members was management, Indian thinking, especially Trigunya and leadership. You know what is meant by Trigunya? Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and the dynamics of the Trigunya, how it impacts the leadership. Looks like I have made my point in this example as to how one can practically express his gratitude to God. Let me go to the other example where there are superstars, super duper stars who earn in crores for each of their films. Equally, they also show this sign of gratitude, having reached that stature. At least I can just quote you two solid examples without naming them for obvious reasons, because all of you must have seen it on newspapers. Two such superstars have refunded the lost money to their film producers when they were sure that in a particular film, their producer could not make profit. Instead, he earned a loss. They made good the loss. Can you imagine what more you want in terms of expressing their gratitude? What a great way of refunding or repaying the debt to the society at large. How many people were or are involved in making a movie? If the producer loses the money, that many people have to indirectly suffer. Okay, let me give you one more example, again from the film dump. You would get this on YouTube. Can you imagine a high-end superstar year on year goes to Tirupati barefoot, walking all the way from Madras to Tirupati. And he goes there not for asking. He himself or his close associate who made it clear in the YouTube tells people that he goes there not to get the blessings for further growth, etc., of himself, but only to say, thank you, God, for all the good you have made for me. That is all he says. He never asked anything from God, I was told. He has been blessed in bounty, and for that he is expressing his gratitude without further asking for. Friends, that is gratitude. Let me go to yet another example, of course, from Mahabharata, and you will have lots of similar examples you can see in today's politics. The example I want to quote is from Mahabharata, that too the role played by no other than Karna. Friends, you know the story. Karna was a born warrior from a Kshatriya blood. Unfortunately, he was not knowing. He felt that Duryodhana has done a great help in recognizing him as a king of a particular small time Samanta Rajya. So for that, lifelong, knowing pretty well that his friend Duryodhana was on the adharmic path, he dedicated his services to Duryodhana. Thereby, he spoiled himself at the end. Although he was entitled to be the ruler, because being the first of the Pandavas, he was entitled to rule. And Krishna made it clear to him that about his birth secret, etc. In spite of it, he stood behind Duryodhana. Take this example in the right spirit. I know in what context I am speaking to you. There are, if you just go in depth, you will find Karna right given by the various interpretations. But however, there are occasions, especially these days, you see in politics, where people, just because they got help in times of need, go to any length, go to any adharmic way of expressing their gratitude. That is how society at large is really suffering. Hope I have made my point in explaining the importance of gratitude as a winning attitude. Thank you for listening.